This is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, I'm starting out a little early tonight. I've got a lot of information to share with you. I've got like 9 people watching already, so I want to go ahead and get this started. Didn't want to hold them up. But here we are on November the 8th in the year of our Lord 2025. As I said, I've got some great stuff. Let me go ahead and click the Murtech on Rumble link and come over here to my Rumble channel. Okay. As you can see, this is the video we're watching tonight, episode 1740. As you can see, it says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. So let's jump into this. Close out the live chat. Slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. We have information here from Alex Newman, Anthony Brian Logan, Bannons War Room, and Devory Darkins. Before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give here from Brenda Cole 50, just started following my channel. E. Schnitz just started following my channel. Papa Carl just started following my channel. Todd Klein just started following my channel. And Freak Nick just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, I got a comment from Uncloudy on my episode 1739. Also from JustmeVLT, gave me a comment on my episode 1739. Who's Asking commented on my daily news wrap-up, and Deb Rant commented also on my episode 1739. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. Thank you, folks, for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. Okay, let's jump up here. And speaking of comments from JustmeVLT, let me share that with you. Comment of the day: great job compiling the news we need to know. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, JustmeVLT. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump back here, and I do have an extra that I want to share with you here from Senate session today. It was a rare Saturday session. Let's go ahead and jump into this. I hope I have it at the right spot here, so let's start playing it. And this is information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, and more than likely, probably not Fox. But let's just take a listen to what they have to say. Okay, I think I'm going to have to refresh here because for some reason this audio is not coming through. So I'm going to pause this. Okay, I think I'm going to have to refresh here because for some reason, let me back this up. This audio is not coming through. So I'm going to do a quick refresh here on Rumble. Let's try this again.
6 and for other purposes.
Mr. President, we are 37 days into an entirely avoidable government shutdown. And I say avoidable, Mr. President, because it was. Democrats instigated this shutdown by rejecting a clean, nonpartisan funding resolution. Republicans weren't asking them to swallow a bunch of new conservative policies. There isn't a single partisan policy in the bill. And yet Democrats couldn't bring themselves to take yes for an answer. Democrats, of course, have claimed their decision to shut down the government's about health care. They want Republicans to bail out their Obamacare mess. And as I've said probably 1,000 times now, Mr. President, Republicans are 100% willing to sit down and talk about the mess that Democrats have created. We're just not going to have that conversation while Democrats are holding the federal government hostage. That was our position in September. That was our position in October. And yes, it's still our position in November. We're just waiting for Democrats to take yes for an answer. Mr. President, I do know that Democrats have been under a lot of pressure from the far left. The far left pushed them to shut down the government. And the far left has pushed them to keep it shut down. As one House Democrat told Axios yesterday, and I quote, "There would be hell to pay if Senate Democrats don't let events play out," end quote. There would be hell to pay if Senate Democrats don't let events play out. That quote from a House Democrat just yesterday. Well, Mr. President, what events need to play out? What more needs to happen for the far left to be satisfied? The pain this shutdown has caused is only getting worse. 40 million Americans who rely on food assistance programs are now at risk of going hungry without a resolution to the shutdown. I'm sure these Americans are doing everything in their power to feed their families, but they can't do that forever. Federal workers have now gone without pay for more than a month, including the people in this building. Will the far left not be satisfied until federal workers and military families are getting their Thanksgiving dinner from a food bank? Because that's where we're headed. And then, Mr. President, there's air travel. Yesterday, the Transportation Secretary announced that as a matter of safety, the Department of Transportation is requiring mandatory reduction in air traffic starting tomorrow because of shutdown staffing issues. That means widespread flight cancellations, supply chain issues, hundreds of thousands of passengers dealing with disruptions to travel every day. The impact this will have will be immense. And all of it because Democrats cannot bring themselves to accept a clean, nonpartisan funding resolution, something that happened 13 times when they had the majority and President Biden was in the White House. So I ask the question again, Mr. President, what more do Democrats need? They got their chairs at the left-wing No Kings rally. They kept their base satisfied through the fall campaigns and Election Day. And as of Tuesday, they have the extremely dubious honor of instigating the longest and most severe government shutdown in history. How much more do Americans have to endure before Democrats are satisfied?
All right, guys, so they asked me to talk about the central bank digital currencies. Now, I don't know if you guys have been following this. Donald Trump pushed pause on it, but the threat remains, and unfortunately, most Americans are totally clueless. Now, they first started publicly talking about this when they announced the Great Reset back in the summer of 2020. You might remember the height of COVID hysteria. This was actually when they announced the Great Reset. This is the guy who made it public to the world, Klaus Schwab. He's just recently been wheeled off stage left. But here he is talking about some important things.
But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset.
All right, so we need a great reset for the post-corona era, new systems, and it's going to drop a really important clue here that we'll come back to.
The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era.
We need a great reset. Okay, all right, very good. Now, did you hear what he said? We're going to make sure the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. We're going to come back to that, so just keep it in the back of your mind. Now, one of the amigos who showed up to announce the Great Reset to the world was Kristalina Georgieva. She is the head of the International Monetary Fund. Her real name was actually Stalina Georgieva, but comes from a communist family. They renamed her Kristalina after Stalin fell out of favor.
History would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset.
Reset, right? We're going to skip a lot because there's stuff to go through, and I don't want to go more than 8 hours. I think is the limit you said, right? So we'll let Bill Clinton introduce our next guest here.
And then, as a student at Georgetown, I heard that call clarified by a professor named Carroll Quigley.
Carroll Quigley was actually a really important guy. He very much saw himself as part of the deep state. He was quite proud of it. He said he agreed with their goals. And the one thing he didn't agree with, he said, was that they wanted to be secret, and he thought that they ought to be known. So he wrote a book, and he kind of exposed the whole game plan. It's called Tragedy and Hope. It's actually very interesting. He says the powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. Mind you, this is coming from somebody who agrees with this system. He said the system would be controlled in a feudalist fashion. You might remember right before they announced the Great Reset, they put out that famous video, "You will own nothing by 2030 and you'll be happy and you're going to have to rent everything." Do you remember feudalism from like 4th grade history class? You own nothing, right? You depend on the generosity of your lord or your baron or whatever, and as long as you hand over 50% of your crops and 50% of your children and 50% of your livestock, then you can be happy. So this new system, he said, was going to be controlled in a feudalist fashion by the central banks of the world acting in concert through secret meetings and conferences. Maybe if I come back again, we'll get into some of these secret meetings and conferences. We don't have time for them today. But he says the apex of the system was the Bank for International Settlements, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which were themselves private corporations. We're going to come back to this Bank for International Settlements. It's very important. But these technologies of the fourth industrial revolution that Klaus Schwab mentioned, everything from AI to quantum computing to nanobots, synthetic biology, some of it gets really weird. We're going to focus today in particular on some of the surveillance technology that they're developing. Bill Gates of hell calls it the digital public infrastructure. Yeah, so digital public infrastructure. And there are several components to this. One of the main ones is digital currency. There's also digital ID, and there's also the digital financial system that brings it all together. So we'll look a little bit at each of those. But just so you know, the Federal Reserve was one of the leading forces pushing central bank digital currencies under the last administration. In fact, the administration put out an executive order right after Biden took office saying they placed the highest urgency on developing and deploying a U.S. central bank digital currency. The IMF said we're working on a global central bank digital currency. And the Uniform Law Commission, a very obscure, any lawyers in the room might have heard of it, they came up with changes to what's called the Uniform Commercial Code so that they could bring this digital currency in through the back door in every one of our 50 states. The Uniform Commercial Code, they try to harmonize the business and commercial laws across the country. And so they redefined money. Now, twice, you remember during the crazy Corona absurdity where you could go to the weed store, you could go to the alcohol shop, you could go abort your babies, you could go to Walmart, but you couldn't go to church. Apparently that wasn't essential. You couldn't go to work if you were a small business owner, right? They said, oh, we shut down your whole economy, but don't worry, we're going to give you free money. Well, twice, Democrats put in that so-called stimulus bill digital dollars. They were going to give you your stimulus money in digital dollars. Now, the Republicans took it out before it finally passed, but central bank digital currency is already here. In fact, less than 100 miles from where I live is a little country called the Bahamas. They already have CBDCs. They call it the sand dollar. Jamaica, not too much further, they're telling you, this is the Prime Minister talking about what's coming.
In the coming weeks and days, I'll be making certain announcements regarding the acceleration of Jamaica's intention to become a fully digital society. We are well on our way to this. We have established the national identification system. We have put in place our digital currency. We have given directions to our ministries to digitalize their operations. Most of our ministries are now moving from paper-based systems to digital systems. Our military is transitioning. The society is moving very quickly, very rapidly to become digital. Our banking consumers are seeing it as well because the banks are moving very rapidly to digital. You have something now called artificial intelligence. Very soon this position of a human being exchanging cash and so on, that is going to disappear from the banking system very soon. And you are going to have to interface with machines. I don't want it to be a scary thought, but it is a thought that we all have to embrace.
All right, you better get busy embracing, okay? Now, this is all over the world, right? It's like everybody all over the world suddenly woke up and said, we don't need cash anymore. Let's just have digital currency, right? The Ukrainians are working on it. The Russians are doing it. I actually first exposed this 15 years ago when the Canadian Central Bank started creating the mint chip, the digital currency. This is their video, not mine. In the interest of time, I won't show it all to you. But Communist China is actually leading the way. The World Economic Forum, we just met Klaus Schwab, says 98% of the governments and central banks in the world are moving toward central bank digital currency. And guess who's leading the way? You remember where the apex of the neo-feudalistic global control system was going to be, according to friend Carol Quigley? The Bank for International Settlements. That's who's coordinating the global transition toward central bank digital currencies. This is the guy who runs it. His name is Agustin Cartens, and remarkably honest about what this means. Listen.
Our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
So he said some really important things right there, right? Right now, you can just walk into a store with a $100 bill, a 1,000 peso bill. You can buy whatever you want. Nobody's going to know. You have privacy. It's kind of nice. Once you have the CBDC, that's gone. Every transaction you make will be, first of all, you'll need permission for it. Second of all, it'll be tracked. It'll be registered in a database. It'll be available to AI. It will be part of a profile that they're already building on you. Second of all, he said something even more creepy. He said central banks will have absolute control over how you use the expressions of central bank liability, how you use your CBDCs. And he's not kidding. They will have absolute control. And they're bragging about this. Here's an Ivy League professor talking about what they might do with this technology.
If you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
Yeah, I'll say that's pretty powerful to be able to tell people what they can and can't buy. Oh, you've been a bad slave. You cannot have any ammunition. You've been tithing at a conservative Bible-believing church. You can't have any more steak. You've drastically exceeded your carbon budget for the month. You see where this is going, ladies and gentlemen? And by the way, it's not just a wacky Ivy League professor at the World Economic Forum. This is the guy at the International Monetary Fund who is doing this at the international level. Listen.
Potential value for everyone to use it. And finally, the third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability. That is, CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program.
It's going to allow government agencies to program your currency.
Oh, how nice.
Those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized.
Nice.
The money can be precisely targeted. We can determine who can own it, what they can use it on. Imagine this technology in the wrong hands. And it's in the wrong hands, trust me. Here's another World Economic Forum honcho.
But very, very specific. This specific brand, even the specific batch of this, if we link that with, AI technology and then big data and particularly Internet of Things, there are ways for us to come up with instant measurement and reporting of the carbon footprint. I hope that through this we can help people to really make different choices.
They're going to help you make different choices, okay?
All right, I'm going to pause right there. This is an hour long here. And let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you this video does come from Liberty Sentinel. This is Alex Newman's channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let me jump back here. And I didn't realize, but my audio was muted when I came back from the information on the Senate session. And as I was saying there, you're not going to get this information from ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox. This is what is actually being said by Republicans in the Senate. This type of continuing resolution has been passed on 13 times during the Biden administration. They passed one earlier this year. Why they have to do this, why they can't just do a regular freaking budget, I don't know. But the Democrats passed one earlier this year. Now, it wasn't a unanimous thing. It took a few of them to come over. It barely passed, like 52 or 53 votes, or 62 or 63 votes to get it to pass. But you do need 60 votes. All the Republicans, except for Rand Paul, are voting for it. But this is absolutely amazing. And what the Democrats want is $1.5 trillion added to what the government is already spending this year for health care. And I heard on American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ, Seculo, that the insurance companies have already released their anticipated premiums for next year, and on average, it's a $50 a month increase. It's going to take $1.5 trillion to cover that, a $50 increase. Now, I'm on Medicare. I'm retired. I have supplemental insurance through my company that I retired from, but I have not seen anything where my premiums are going up. I don't know. It's just a crazy thing why the Democrats want this $1.5 trillion. I suspect that it's to continue paying house payments and rent payments for the illegals that they allowed into the country. I think it's to continue paying SNAP benefits, EBT benefits for the illegals that they allowed to come into this country. I think it's to continue to pay for their cell phones that they gave them, because, there's a monthly bill that goes with your cell phone service, and for their medical coverage. So the Democrats are blaming this on the Republicans. The Republicans just want to continue to spend what they've already spent, and maybe into next year. But that's not what this continuing resolution is for. It's to cover for the rest of the year. Just continue spending without spending any more. No, the Democrats can't go for that. This needs to be shared out with your friends, contacts, and family members. Right here's the link to this video. It's like 7 hours long, but you can skip through and find all kinds of information in there from the Republicans laying out specifically what this continuing resolution is about, and the Democrats just want money to blow, to pay off their rich friends like George Soros. Okay, I'm going to move on down here to Anthony Brian Logan. Woman kicked out of LA Gold's gym over man in locker room. This is utterly amazing, folks. Let's take a listen to this. More Democrat craziness. Left-wing craziness. It's unbelievable.
Gold's gym! Men! Grown men with big in the women's locker room. And that's why I'm getting kicked out. And I want to make sure the girls know. Everybody saw that man in the locker room. No one's saying shit. And I'm done with it. It's stupid. It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
How are you?
Did you tell me or not that women like to see?
I'm asking you.
Exactly. Get out of the way now. No. Now he knows how to be a man, right? Now he knows how to be a man. Stay out of the women's locker room. We don't want it. He needs to have his gym membership revoked for that. And the woman told you. He assaulted me. The girl told already. We already filed reports. No.
That's fine. I want the video.
You can't get rid of me for this. I'm a woman and I have every right to not want a man in the restroom when I'm naked. There are girls naked in there. Look at them walking in there like it's okay. It's not okay. I just had the worst experience ever at the gym, at Gold's Gym, and I think this is probably happening at gyms across America, where like trans women are going into the women's locker room and not really caring about how women feel about it. And it's really hurtful, yo. Like, how you gonna say you want to be a woman or that you are a woman, but you don't give a how women feel? Today I was naked in the locker room. I turn around and there's a man there in boy clothes, lip gloss, standing there looking at me. I'm butt naked. So the first thing I think is maybe there's a worker in here. Maybe I missed the sign. I say the word sir to say, sir, what are you doing in here? He goes, don't talk to me. I'm a woman. I have a right to be in here. Immediately, I'm pissed because I'm butt naked. I feel violated. I feel like weird. Like I don't want to deal with this, right? So the girls are walking in and they're seeing the commotion and they actually chime in and say, yo, I don't know why he's in here. He's not supposed to be in here. And then I talk to the people that work at Gold's Gym and they don't really have anything to do. They just like, oh, we can file a report about it, incident report. What the is going on? Like, listen, how can you say you're a woman or you want to be a woman and you don't care how women feel? That's nothing more manly than not giving a about how women feel, I'd like to think. And I get it, like, everybody has their own things, and I don't explain, I don't want to say that I know everything about gay rights or trans rights. I'm a lesbian. I've been a lesbian my whole life. I treat people how I want to be treated regardless of whatever their sexual orientation is or whatever they decide. So I'm not transphobic, and I'm not homophobic. I'm not phobic. I'm not racist. None of these things. I just believe in treating people how I want to be treated. Why do you guys think it's okay for men to be in the women's restroom? And like, when is the cutoff point? Is it like, oh, you cut off your penis, you can come in here? Why aren't women making the laws? And if you really want to be safe and feel good, why don't we just make trans restrooms? Because it ain't right. The way I feel right now. And don't come into my comments about he gay, he ain't looking at you. I don't give a f, bro. It's about a feeling, yo. Like, if you never been a little girl who been touched or been through some shit, you won't understand that feeling. And you've never been a little girl.
Okay, there you have it, folks. And isn't it amazing? Now, you know, the most interesting thing about this that the left latches onto is that if you're a woman and a guy walks into the locker room or the restroom or something, you are the one. The woman is the one that is wrong. That's in the wrong. That's insensitive. The guys on these girls' swim teams, you know, I heard interviews with these girls. You know, there's like 8, 10 girls on the swim team, and one guy comes into their locker room so that he can take their ribbons and medals and trophies away from them because his genetics are different because he's a guy, but just because he says he feels like a girl, he can go in there. They were told by the coaches and by the counselors that if they have all 8 or 10 of them, if they have a problem with this one person coming in, they need counseling. Okay, so all 8 or 10 of them can feel bad about this guy coming into their locker room, and they take one person's feeling over the 8 or 10. That's the left for you. What is going on? And people, am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. Am I thinking incorrectly here? Please help me out because I don't understand this. Whew, let's click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Anthony Brian Logan. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, here we go. Yep. Following his channel, giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. I want to share some information here from Dr. Gundry on his great product. So let's just go ahead and take a quick listen to that.
Don't eat breakfast until you learn about caloric bypass. Your breakfast is setting you up for the entire day to either gain weight or lose it. The term breakfast literally means to break your fast that you started the night before.
About 4 hours after you eat dinner, your body switches from the nutrients we get from food to the stored glycogen we have in our bodies. Once glycogen stores are depleted, typically after 8 to 12 hours of fasting, the body shifts to burning fat for energy.
Fatty acids are released from fat stores where they are converted into ketone bodies through a process called ketogenesis. Then when you eat breakfast in the morning, the body starts the cycle again. This is where the caloric bypass comes into play.
Dr. Gundry, a heart surgeon in California, learned that if you break your nightly fast with something called MCTs, or medium-chain triglycerides, You can actually keep burning fat throughout the day and use it for energy. But there are specific types of foods that contain these MCTs.
Using this breakfast breakthrough, he was able to lose 70 pounds just through diet, and he did this in his 60s. Scan the QR code or click the link in chat to watch Dr. Gundry's eye-opening presentation. It could change the way you think about fruit forever.
Okay, we're going to move down here to see what Bannons War Room has to say. If we do not control what goes into our body and the bodies of our children, we are not free. This is Dale Bigtree. I really like him. He doesn't do regular videos, but I try to share him as much as I can. And in fact, I have from Murtech.com. Let me just jump over here before we get into this. On Murtech.com, video channels. I have over 55 no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos on my webpage, Murtech.com. But I have over 170 different channels here on my video channels page, right here, Dale Bigtree. I share his stuff, great information. So let's jump back over here again and see what's going on in Bannons War Room with Dale Bigtree. There he is right there.
I have a special guest with me, who you've actually seen in the show before, Dale Bigtree, who I don't even know what to call you now, a TV host, documentary filmmaker. I mean, you're kind of doing everything.
Jack of all trades, I guess.
I want to just hop back real quick to, earlier I mentioned being 15, going to the CDC rally, and I was sitting outside of this hotel, and I saw this guy in the car, and I was like, oh, he looks a lot like Dale Bigtree, who I just saw in this documentary Vaxxed. And then he got out, and it was Dale Bigtree. I think I was maybe your first fangirl.
I think you were. I think that was the first time I was ever publicly recognized, and I'll never forget it. Felt really, I was like, oh my God, someone like Dale Bigtree? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. We talked a little bit about the film Vaxxed with the rest of the crew. It's been 10 years since it was made.
Right?
I want to talk about...
It feels like 40 years, but...
I can relate to that. But you were in Hollywood before you made Vaxxed. So tell us about that.
I was a producer on the CBS talk show The Doctors. That's where I was working before I got involved with Vax. Prior to that, I was on the Dr. Phil show, but I won an Emmy Award on the Doctor's television show. So I was, I consider myself, I guess, a medical producer because that was the majority of the work that I did in Hollywood, turning science and medicine into entertainment.
And, moving forward, you worked on the film Vaxxed. As Paulie Tommy mentioned, you ended up meeting with some different congressmen and senators, and then The Highwire was born shortly after, right?
Yeah, so, Vaxxed was on tour for about a year. Halfway into that tour, people started saying, hey, will you come in and talk to our senators and our congressmen? And I was like, sure, never done that before. And then, try it. As soon as I did, I think Mississippi was the first time I ever walked into a Capitol. That's right. I think it might have been your mom that dragged me in. But as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, I really enjoy doing this. So as the tour went on, I started going to more and more capitals. And then I started flying because people wanted me to go to the different capitals. So while I was doing that, the truth is after a year, Vaxxed was only about the MMR vaccine. And I wanted to go deeper because, as Polly said just earlier, it wasn't just autism. It wasn't just MMR. People were saying my baby died after a flu shot. My teenage daughter was paralyzed after a Gardasil vaccine. I wanted to get to the bottom of that. And so I started a nonprofit, the Informed Consent Action Network, started my own internet talk show, The Highwire, then hired a constitutional attorney, Aaron Siri, to start suing the government so we could get to the bottom of the answers on vaccine safety. How had they determined that all the vaccines we're giving our kids was safe? That was my primary goal, and have been doing that work since 2017.
And Dal, ultimately, why do you do what you do every day? What is the reason?
Well, there's a couple reasons. I don't vaccinate my kids. I want them to live in a world where that's, I wasn't vaccinated as a child, so growing up that way, I just wanted to be able to raise my kids the way that I was raised, and living in California, SB 277 took that right away, took the right to choose what's injected into my body, or especially the bodies of my children. And I think that this is really a freedom issue, at the tip of the spear of all freedom. If we do not control what goes into our body and the bodies of our children, we are not free. We are not free citizens. I believe we have the same rights as farm animals, and I don't think I'm overstating that. So my fight is, this is one of the most important issues to show that I don't think this country is working the way that it should, and luckily we've got it coming back on the right track. I was director of communications for Robert Kennedy Jr. when he ran for president. I think he's doing a great job at HHS. We have a lot of work to do, but I don't think there's any issue that embodies, whether you have freedom or whether you're basically imprisoned and living in an authoritarian state. So I think it's the most important issue of our time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's the most important issue of our time, and to me, it's something I think we're all on the same page. We're going to dedicate our lives to it until we see it done. Where can people find you, Dow, and learn more about what you do?
My weekly talk show is called iWire.com. You can go to all of the legal work we do at ICanDecide.org, and I have a film out right now at InconvenienceStudy.com, which people can watch for free.
I'm really excited about An Inconvenient Study and your release of that. I'm really glad it's out for free. So everyone should check it out. Thank you for joining us, Dow.
Thanks for having me. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, all right. Let me jump back here and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Bannons War Room. I'm following the channel, giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Very important information and that he puts out. Again, no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, the kind of information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. I'm introducing you to this. If you don't know about it, if you do know about it, that's fantastic. Right here's the link. Right here's the link to this video. Here's the link to Bannons War Room. And if you want to see more from Dale Bigtree, go to Murtech.com and click on that video channels tab, and it'll take you there. You can look it up. Dale Bigtree, I also have him listed under Highwire. Dale Bigtree, give you all kinds of great information. Okay, let's move on here to Devory Darkins. Democrats sabotage GOP effort to reopen the government. Where have we heard that before? Excuse me. Let's go ahead and get this started.
All right, let's start with CNN. And I guess if CNN is reporting that Democrats are not willing to play ball after everything that has happened at this point, there must be a lot of truth to it. Let's start with this first clip.
Progress on a potential agreement to reopen the government appears to have reached another dead end. Democrats signaled they are prepared to block Republican plans to force a vote today unless they get more firm commitments from their GOP colleagues to deal with rising health care costs. And as the status of negotiations changes by the hour.
Yeah, $50 a month. Yeah, let's shut down the whole frickin' government for an average increase of $50 a month, okay? Let's let millions of people not be paid, have to go to food lines, have 40 million people not get their food stamps to save $50 a month on average. Okay, yeah, boy, that's Democrat for you, Democrat logic.
Millions of Americans are not getting paid, and they are struggling to get by. Now, a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to start making full food stamp payments as early as today. The White House is appealing the court's decision. Joining me now is Steph Knight. She is a politics reporter at Axios. Thank you so much for being here. Look, this is the longest shutdown in history. The last time this happened was during the Trump administration, the second longest now shutdown, and it was the air traffic controllers that broke the stalemate because there was a lack of them and it created a real mess at airports. Is there any indication that this might be the final straw to get Congress to do its job?
I mean, there's no question that the longer this shutdown drags on, the more painful this becomes for Americans in various industries, including federal workers who have now not been getting paid for over a whole month. And so that pain does matter. And Senate offices I've spoken to say that they are now starting to get more and more complaints and calls from constituents who are worried about how this shutdown is actually impacting their real lives. So it absolutely puts more pressure on the negotiations right now.
Yeah. So that was the risk that Democrats were willing to take. They're willing to leverage one issue over another, which is a huge no-no when you're running Congress, because we all know it's about bipartisanship and compromise in order to get things moving and get things done. We're at a point right now in our country where that is the last item on their priority list, right? So what they've done is they have taken Obamacare, the ACA subsidies, and they have used that issue to obviously weaponize the government shutdown. They've also used the government shutdown to energize their base to turn out and vote for them on Tuesday. And as a result, they are, I guess, running on this high cloud and confident of their strategy, which, again, the American people are not stupid. If you hurt them long enough, they will do radical things as a response, okay? That is the risk that overall, generally speaking, if we zoom out 30,000 feet, that is what will happen. The more both political parties continue to ignore the interest of the American voter, particularly the working class, the more likely it is that these voters will make a radical choice during elections. So it's easy to ignore that today, but when election time comes around and people are stunned and shocked, people shouldn't be, because the writing's on the wall. All right, let's go to, matter of fact, let's fast forward. Let's go to the example of how ridiculous Democrats are continuing to be. Play this.
When John Thune brings that vote out tomorrow morning to open up the government without dealing with the healthcare crisis, we are going to vote no once again. We are united in our opposition.
I think that there is no reason to surrender now, every reason to stand firm.
I think there will be some pretty substantial damage done to a Democratic brand that has been rehabilitated if on the heels of an election in which the people told us to keep fighting, we immediately stop fighting. If we surrender without having gotten anything, and we cause a lot of folks in this country who had started to believe in the Democratic Party to retreat again, I worry that it will be hard to sort of get them back up off the mat in time for next fall's election cycle.
Okay, let's take Chris Murphy's argument and just exercise some logic. You guys, if you agree with me here, let me know. If you don't, you put your thoughts in the chat. Okay, so he believes that if Democrats, 7 of them, vote yes to open up the government today, that will signal them being weak. That will be a loss to their party, and that will, I guess, prevent their base from showing up to them showing up for them during the midterms. Here's my question, though. This is my thing. If you believe that millions of Americans are going to die because of ACA subsidies, this is Democrats' language. If you believe so strongly about that, open up the government and call the GOP's bluff. Okay, what does that mean? That means if the GOP claims that they will do the right thing and vote for whatever extension is needed on these subsidies, call their bluff then. And if they don't, and these subsidies expire, insurance premiums are going to go up. You think Republicans are going to win the midterms at that point? They're already struggling, in my opinion. You think somehow that's going to prevent Democrat voters from showing up and voting for Democrats? I don't think so. Maybe he knows something I don't. I just don't follow his logic on that. Democrat Party is definitely crazy, no question about it. But if people are already pissed off about the economy and insurance premiums are going to go up, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame Democrats? No, they're going to blame the president, and they're going to blame the Republican Party because they are in charge. That's what the average voter will do. Someone who's obviously aware and is going to do the research, they'll look past that and know it's really Democrats. But overall, people who are working 9 to 5 don't have time to tune into politics every day. They'll blame the federal government. They'll blame the party in charge. So his logic is flawed, in my opinion. But at any rate, you just heard it himself. They believe not compromising at this point would be the best strategy for the party. But clearly, it's not the best strategy for the American people. Now, to just show you, because I like to be thorough, listen to this representative, Miss Baldwin, and her thinking about why they should not compromise at this point. Take a look.
There were murmurs that a deal could be struck yesterday. John Thune now says that this newly drafted bill had input from Democrats, and he says this now. Quote, they, Democrats, seem to be walking back or slow walking this. That is what they asked for. Is there a deal emerging, or is this deadlocked, and why aren't Democrats going for it?
Look, there's a lot of conversation going on, and I want to say that a lot changed this week. We had an election on Tuesday where voters resoundingly said we can't afford to make ends meet. And
So open the government.
that was something that caught President Trump's attention. For the very first time on Wednesday this week, he engaged in this. He told Republicans in the United States Senate, you have to reopen immediately. And that creates an opportunity for us to both lower healthcare costs with this looming crisis in the Affordable Care Act. People are shopping right now, and many opting not to renew health insurance because they simply can't afford it. We can reopen government and bring down these health care costs at the same time, and that's what we must do this weekend.
It's a fatal mistake, man. It really is. What do I mean by that, guys? They are clearly weaponizing one policy over another.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got to jump in here. All right, prices are coming down from when Donald Trump took office, 10 months ago? 9.5 months ago? Okay, grocery prices are going down, gas prices are going down. He's working with pharmaceutical companies to lower their prices so insurance costs will go down, and you would think that the premiums would go along with that. This is amazing how the Democrats play this game, and the worst part of it all is the mainstream media goes right along with it, their lies and propaganda. That's what it is, propaganda. Unbelievable. I just had to get my 2 cents worth in there, sorry.
They're not actually debating each policy on their own merits. They're trying to connect ACA subsidies to a government shutdown. They don't have anything to do with each other. The government shutdown is strictly because of a continuing resolution you guys have refused to vote for. That's it. It's got nothing to do with subsidies or anything else. Now, subsidies is another issue. And by the way, I just find it interesting how the party who created Obamacare, the party who voted for ACA subsidies, the party who put this expiration date on subsidies is the party trying to blame Republicans for a healthcare crisis. That's not going to work. Now, Republicans don't have anything to offer regarding healthcare either, so there's that, if we're going to give you the full picture. I haven't heard a clear vision from Republicans on healthcare in quite some time. You let me know if you have. I don't think they have one. So, they're not helpful in this situation either. And the fact that they allowed Democrats to vote in ACA subsidies during COVID has put us in this position, meaning the insurance companies are controlling these politicians. They are slave to these companies. And they're using our tax dollars to do it. More government spending, more inflation. And who gets hurt in the end? The American citizen. Okay. Now, what's interesting is this former Obama official, I believe he served as the Department of Homeland Security. Here's what he had to say. This is an interesting rebuke of Democrats. Take a look.
Now, for more on this, former Secretary of Homeland Security in the Obama administration, Jay Johnson. Jay, good morning. Of course, good morning. Thank you for being here. I mean, this is something where more and more, this is real pain for real Americans.
It's real pain for the American public. It's real pain for the federal workforce. Jonathan, I ran a cabinet department of 230,000 people, and I feel an obligation to speak for them. They have no voice in this process. They are political footballs, essentially, and they're either furloughed, sent home without pay, or they're forced to work without pay, dedicated to this country's aviation security, border security, cybersecurity, maritime security. And I will I will break ranks with my party to say this has got to stop. This is the longest government shutdown in history, 38 days, and we need to get out of the business of leveraging one issue on the back of another. Otherwise, this is going to become the new norm. When the Republicans are back in the minority, and they will be, they will say, well, you need 60 votes to reopen the government. Well, we want you to also address issue A, B, and C, and our democracy will spiral downward.
So what would be a good solution to prevent something like this from happening in the future? I think it's a couple of things that we should be demanding from our representatives. Number one, definitely Congress should not get paid during government shutdown. I think that's the most obvious thing ever. Number two, a government shutdown can't happen. They should actually prevent a government shutdown from happening by law. Meaning, if we cannot come to an agreement on the continuing resolution, the existing spending will continue. There will be no increase in spending. There won't be any. I guess the bad thing with it is you won't be able to reduce spending either. So if we can't come to an agreement, we're just going to keep spending the same money. We can only vote for a new CR if we are planning to reduce the budget or we're planning to increase the budget. But if we can't agree to reduce or increase, the government doesn't shut down. I would say that's a good solution, but I'm not serving in Congress and I have no interest of serving in Congress, but because I don't believe something like that would even get voted into office because, again, these people are walking conflicts of interest. They can't help themselves.
Now, the real solution to this would be that if you can't agree on a continuing resolution, the government doesn't shut down, but the people in Congress don't get paid. Okay, you either work and figure this out and get it done, or you don't get paid. Don't push it off on the millions of armed forces employees, the millions of people receiving food stamps. No, everybody else is fine, but you in Congress don't get paid until you get this figured out. That would be, now whether that would never go. No one would ever vote on that. But that would be the real solution.
As much as they get in front of a camera and say that they care about the American people, the results say otherwise. And when you spend 95% of your time running for re-election and doing exactly what your lobbyists, your special interest groups, and your donors want you to do, the American people are not at the top of your priority list. That's just the reality, okay? And we talk about it all the time. It goes back to Citizens United. If somehow that could change, then I would have a more optimistic view of Congress. I just don't think they can help themselves. Now, however, it's not just Congress that's becoming a problem. It's the judiciary, meaning what? These lower court judges continue to issue rulings that are insane. For an example, I started the show with it earlier today where, this judge believes that they can tell this administration what to do regarding SNAP benefits. It is true by law that SNAP benefits payments are mandatory. It's the way Congress wrote the language. Mandatory meaning it doesn't matter if we're in a government shutdown. Those benefits by law must be paid. However, you can't pay the benefits if there's no money in the bank account, right? So even in that scenario, there's nothing the government can do about it until they agree, which goes back to my solution. A government shutdown should never be allowed to happen. Okay? At any rate, this ruling came in yesterday, and here's what the vice president had to say about it. Take a listen.
Yeah, look, Jackie, it's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown, which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP, and we can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation. We're trying to keep as much turned on. We're trying to keep as much going as possible. The president and the entire administration are working on that, but we're not going to do it under the orders of a federal judge. We're going to do it according to what we think we have to do to comply with the law, of course, but also to actually make the government work for people in the midst of the Democrat government shutdown. If they would like to end this, we would welcome working with them to end this government shutdown, and then we wouldn't have to triage we're going to fund and what we're not going to fund. And the last thing that I'll say is the American people are unfortunately about to start suffering some very real consequences because of the shutdown. In the past, when you had a government shutdown, you would have, under the Obama administration, they would lean into all of the problems it was going to cause for the American people at the beginning of the shutdown. The president has told us to keep as much going as humanly possible. But after 30 days of this thing, 40 days of this thing, you're going to start seeing very real travel delays. That's because the Democrat government shut down. You're going to start seeing SNAP benefits run out. That's because the Democrat government shut down. They should stop this charade and open up the government. That's what we want them to do. We've been asking them to do it for 40 days. It's time.
No question that it's time. Now, I saw this graphic on social media. This is interesting. States most dependent on food stamps. Okay, SNAP. Americans' primary food assistance program helps about 12% of Americans put food on the table. Now, I don't think this graphic is compensating for undocumented migrants, as Democrats would call it, right? Anyways, New Mexico is the highest at 21.5% of people on SNAP. Now, not many people live in New Mexico, by the way. Oregon, 18.1%. California, 13.9%. Gavin Newsom should probably focus on his own state. Nevada, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, all above 15%. I think the lowest is Wyoming. And then you have Utah, which is to be expected because they don't do things in a certain way over there, or they do things in a certain way. It's different in Utah when it comes to getting benefits. And so this is something that's going to need to be addressed, of course. Anyways, states like New York, Massachusetts, and Hawaii, they receive $361. Hawaii reports some of the highest average benefits per person. These higher payments reflect steeper living costs in dense urban and island economies. In contrast, benefits tend to be smaller in lower coast Midwestern states such as Wisconsin and Minnesota, where overall food prices and housing costs are lower. Low participation in Western states. Wyoming has the lowest SNAP participation, and including Utah. Still, even in these states, food stamps remains a crucial safety net for tens of thousands of residents. Utah alone has $34 million in benefits each month to about 177,000 people. Can we do the math on that? What is going on? So 34 million divided by 177. So that's $192. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of money. That's insane.
Okay. There you have it, folks. I'm going to pause this here. 22 minutes into this 1 hour and 15-minute video. If you'd like to watch more of that, the link is in the description box below. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Devory Darkins. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up.
Suffering some very real
thing for me. Let's go ahead and take a listen to some information about 1775 coffee, okay? And then we'll talk about some more things.
Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
Okay, let me get back here. And I just copied the chat into a comment because I feel it's important. that the live chat is part of this video. And once this live stream is over, the live chat's just kind of evaporated to hyperspace. So there we go. Boom. And that's how easy it is to make a comment, folks. Okay, I want to share one other thing with you. Rumble Studio. Let me come over here and show you my stats for November. All right. When I complete all these stats, Rumble will help promote this information out, so more people will be able to see it, and more people will have an understanding of what the hell is actually going on, and won't have to rely on the lies and propaganda from the Democrats and the deep state and the mainstream media that are just constantly lying to you. Hours streamed in Rumble Studio. My requirement is 30 hours. So far this month, I've done 88 hours. 88 hours of live stream in Rumble Studio on the 8th of this month. So that's like over 10 hours a day. Hours watched this month, 200 is what my goal is. I've done 1,620. Pretty amazing. Okay, and total unique chatters this month. Okay, that is a person. I have a lot of people that chat with me every day, and that's fantastic. This is new people. They want new people to put something in the chat box. Okay, right now I've got 30 people watching. I only need 20 unique chats. So I would think one more of those 30 people that are watching, if one of you would just go in there and say, hi, how you doing? Then that would meet my requirement for this month. Rumble Premium exclusive hours, I need 5. I've got 8.2. And Rumble Studio host read campaigns, which is what we just listened to, 1775 coffee. I need 5. I've got 31. So, all I need here is just one person that has not given me a chat before to jump up in there in the chat box and say, hi, how you doing? That would be fantastic. Okay, let's jump back over here, and let me remind you again, folks, that these videos that I shared with you are videos that come directly from the producer. And I have the link to the videos and the link to the producer's channel right here in the description box. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. I do it to get the information out, to just show people what's available out there so that you can have an understanding of what's going on. And these videos that I shared with you today are videos that I post on Murtech.com. Right here is Bannons War Room, the information I shared with you from there. Anthony Brian Logan, Alex Newman, the information that I shared with you from there. Devory Darkins, up here, it's in alphabetical order. But I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. Now, I wish I could share all of this with you, but I just don't have time in this 1-hour podcast. But I do have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30. Let me show you that. This is my playlist so far for my daily news wrap-up. Got a lot of great information in here for you. I've got over 10 hours of information in here. So this will take you throughout the night. You can get stuff here that's I don't normally share in my live streams, and stuff that right here. The High Wire with Del Bigtree. Here's a video here, a 33-minute video that I'm going to share with you. Just the news. Paul Joseph Watson. If you haven't heard him before, he's a British guy, but he's a conservative British guy. The Charlie Ward Show. So don't miss out on that. Go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or beer, and meet me back here at 9:30 while I go ahead and finish setting my live stream up and my playlist, and we'll have a grand old time. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.